So I have been quite pessimistic about this player ever since his trade over to the Philadelphia Flyers. Today we're talking about Trevor Zegras, a guy who I personally have nothing against. I really don't. I loved the dodgeball reference. I loved the blindfolded kind of Pavel Barber style spinny around doopsie-doo lacrosse style goal that he got. I love the fact that he was on the video game. He was a really good marketing tool for the NHL to use over the past few years. Trevor Zegras made hockey cool in a way that it wasn't really cool the past little while. But going into the more recent little while with Trevor Zegras, things haven't really been going all too well in terms of his NHL career. Back-to-back 60-point seasons with the Anaheim Ducks, followed up by an injury-riddled 23-24 wherein he had 15 points, and then another season where he only played 57 games and he only scored 32 points there. Would he have hit 60 had he played the full year? Probably not, but still. Trevor Zegras, with the contract negotiation dispute that we had seen with him and the Anaheim Ducks, very similar to the Mason McTavish situation this year, as well as the way Zegras' career progressed with Anaheim, it's understandable to see why the Ducks traded him away. Also the fact that Pat Verbeek just has a very specific kind of preference for players, especially up front. Trevor Zegras does not necessarily fit that. He's 6 feet, 185, left-handed center winger who does a lot of spins and fancy dekes and stuff. And we can definitely see that Verbeek has a little bit more of a Verbeek-type styled player. The Mason McTavishes, the Gauthiers, the Leo Carlsons, the Roger McQueens, the Beckett Senecas, the big guys with size, physicality, and still bringing offensive potential. Zegras doesn't have that size, and he doesn't have that rough, tough game. So seeing him get sent over to Philadelphia, very obvious to see why he got traded. In this video, though, what I wanted to do was dive into Zegras' latest interview, as posted by Greg Wyszynski on ESPN.com. Because it turns out, Zegras went out there and spoke about what actually went wrong with the Anaheim Ducks, and he had some other really interesting comments as well. I'm going to leave a link in the description to this article, Post-Ducks Crashout, How Trevor Zegras Can Recapture the Magic with the Philadelphia Flyers, and you can go out there and read this on your own time. I just wanted to dive into the comments made by Zegras about these particular topics. So, big shout out over to Greg Wyszynski, who went out there and published this article. In fact, the thing opens up by talking about how Zegras was on the cover of EA Sports NHL 23. What does Zegras see when he looks at that cover today? The same guy. Yet around the NHL, many have wondered what happened to that version of Trevor Zegras. The first 3 seasons of Zegras' NHL career were brilliant, tallying 139 points in 180 games with the Ducks. He became the face of a generation of young players who grew up filming themselves attempting trick shots, scoring multiple Michigan lacrosse-style goals. The article then talks about the assist to Sonny Milano, which was the Zegras, the assist where he took the puck Michigan style and then tossed it over the goal. You know exactly what it is that we're talking about. But then things didn't really work out. He was one of the players where the question wasn't if he'd become a star, but how brightly he would shine. His last 2 seasons in Anaheim, though, all but extinguished that star. They were nightmarish, filled with injuries, criticism of his defensive game, conflicts with Ducks management, and statistical decline. They were also filled with trade rumors, which Zegras said caused him awful anxiety and eventually a trade to Philly in June. The guy hasn't liked his last couple of years. He has his doubters, Rick Tocchet said. He's in-house now. He knows this is his sanctuary. The move to Philadelphia offers Zegras the reset he has needed, a chance to play center after the Ducks forced him to the wing, a chance to vibe with other young stars like Matvei Michkov, a chance to recapture some of that magic he had in his first few seasons, as Flyers GM Danny Briere put it. What does Zegras want people saying about him after his first season in Philadelphia? I want them to go from saying he's good at hockey to he's a hockey player. I think there are a lot of guys that are good at hockey. After the season, I'd rather be known as someone who is a hockey player. Now, there's a little bit of nuance there that I'm not fully grasping, but if anybody wants to let me know in the comments what that fully means, then I think we can try to get on even ground there. But here is where the absolute bomb is dropped. The question is, what went wrong in Anaheim? Zegras says, seasonal depression. Let's go with that. Zegras, deadpanned, sitting in the media room at the Flyers training facility. I need winters. Every day felt the exact same for 5 years. It was weird. Seasonal depression. It's a real thing, I swear to God. Despite the monotonously gorgeous weather, things weren't always sunny for Zegras in SoCal. Now this is really interesting too. I don't dismiss the idea that not having that mental routine of going through a year where things get from warm to cool to cold to rainy to warm again, I don't dismiss the idea that that can have some sort of a psychological effect on a person. I don't know if it's the same as seasonal depression disorder. We've seen that mostly from people experiencing gloomy winters, but I guess the opposite can be true, right? It is quite interesting, though. We know Zegras is from New York. We know that he played at Boston University, so he obviously is in a spot where he grew up around winters and it was cold, etc., etc. Wasn't like that in Anaheim. Ever. The article talks about Zegras' Boston University stint, how he joined the Ducks and did all this great stuff. He matched up with Moritz Seider for the Rookie of the Year, and then he went out there and talked about his former head coach, Greg Cronin. He was telling me how to play defense, Zegras quipped, a nod to his reputation as a one-dimensional player. Cronin gave Zegras some tough love during 23-24, benching him for his game decision-making. Zegras had a sluggish start, with just a goal and an assist in his first 12 games. I think when you have a new GM and you bring in a new coach, I think they want things done their way. And not to say I wasn't okay with doing everything their way, but I think there were things that maybe we didn't see eye to eye on a ton of the time, and maybe they viewed that as a negative thing. The contract situation that he had played a role too. That was hard just from a mental standpoint. That was a year with the new coach, and then you kind of come in behind the 8 ball, you get off to a slow start, and then combined with the contract and the trade rumors, it's just not fun. But I've got to keep playing. They left him overthinking things with the Anaheim Ducks. The last thing he was thinking about was actually playing hockey at times. That was hard for him. And then you throw in the injuries and the rehab and the recovery and getting back to it. I guess the place where you were before. Little things become big things in your head, and it makes it very hard to play against the best players in the world on a night-to-night basis, Zegras said. It almost felt like you were alone, when they didn't believe in you. He talks about how it was awful when his name was included on all the trade boards, when it's never happened to him before. The second year was easier to deal with, but that first year was tough. It was everywhere, every day. It was this and that and this and that, and then it was another little thing that becomes a big thing. You're not thinking about it, but you're seeing it everywhere. And it just sucks. So, big ups to Trevor Zegras, of course, for being very open and honest about how all the trade speculation affected his mental. But now he is in Philadelphia. And if you want to read more about the transition over there, that's all going to be in the article down below. But I wanted to skip down to one of these things over here. Zegras talks about some of his best friends, Jack, Quinn, and Luke Hughes. And the article says this, that Trevor Zegras is happy to be in the same division with Jack and Luke Hughes, because it means he's no longer in the same division as their brother Quinn. I never want to play Quinn ever again. He's the best hockey player of all time, he said. Now, I'm not necessarily too sure if Quinn is really that good, but maybe best defenseman in the league is pretty reasonable, based off of the magnitude of that comment that Zegras made. Obviously, he's hyping up his good buddy, and it's nice for him to be able to be around some of the guys that he's more familiar with, like Jack and Luke in New Jersey. But I did want to talk about that a little bit here, too. Let's not talk about Quinn's golf game. Let's talk about Quinn being the best hockey player of all time. Again, the article's going to be linked in the description if you want to go out there and read more about this Zegras piece yourself. There's a lot of really good stuff in here, but essentially, he's going out there and revealing what went wrong in Anaheim, how the seasons didn't really work in his favor, and how mentally challenging it was, with the coaching staff and the GM staff not really believing in him as much as he probably would have preferred. With this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Zegras' commentary on the Anaheim Ducks? Do you agree with what he's saying? Are you more sympathetic now towards this situation? If you enjoyed this video at any point, feel free to hit the like button. If you didn't, then please click that dislike button. Comments help out with the algorithm, so I appreciate that a ton. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.